Hey everybody, welcome to Obscurities and Miniatures. I'm High Lord Tamerlane, and this is the Unmade. They're not made yet. Actually, they are made. They've just ripped all their faces off, glued them to their belts, and called it a day. So these guys have the craziest, kookiest looking leader of all the different warbands for WarCry. Yeah, he's got that little slick because he's wearing a mask, but he's got the head on top, and all of his limbs have been replaced with, metal parts, which is just totally cool and crazy. So, with the Unmade, how many models do we get? I'm not even sure here. So we have our Blissful one, we've got the Ascended ones, we've got the Joyous one, and the Awakened ones. Not twos, not threes, just ones. So what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 models. Okay. That seems to be about the going rate for models we're getting with the WarCry bands. This guy is especially interesting because he does come with a different optional head bit where he's removing his mask and you can see his face is missing. So fun stuff. Let's take a look inside. I guess if you want like a Cenobite type model. Inside the box we have a tray because that's how we're getting all of our stuff packaged. We have the directions. Let's see what kind of base sizes. We've got everything under the sun. So I'm guessing the Blissful one, the big leader, is going to go on the 40. I have no idea who goes. Maybe the Joyous one is on the 32. And then what are they called? The Ascended probably are on the 28s, which are new for WarCry, and then the Awakened ones are going to be on the little baby bases. So we'll take a look at that in a little bit. Bag of bases. Loose base. First frame. Pile of cards. Kanji I can barely read. And the second and third half frame. So this seems to be a pretty common pattern with all of the WarCry models. They come on these half frames. You get 3 of them. And once more, and I've said this on just about every single video for WarCry so far, a lot of these have really slender, delicate parts. So take your time removing them. Make sure you have a good pair of clippers because otherwise things will get broken. Heck with me, things are probably going to get broken anyways. I like that club. That's pretty nice. So they look pretty much regular human sized. Lots of chains on this warband. I don't know, it's somebody's leftover skin, I'm guessing. Yeah, a lot of their weapons have little ridges and notches, I'm noticing. They're really into making a mess. Stitches on their clothing, which I'm sure is sewn from skins or something fun like that. All right. Ooh, I like the man catcher. One thing that cannot be said enough of all of the WarCry sprues is that if you're looking for interesting weapon bits, I mean, there's all kinds of stuff, especially if you're making a human-sized warband. If you really want to go customize things up, you got a lot of options if you're not going to actually build the models the way they're intended. If you are going to build them the way they're intended, you probably are out of luck and you're going to have nothing left over, but, just saying. All right, let's start with that awesome boss man. Let us build the Blissful one. As crazy as the boss Blissful one here looks, he's only actually 8 parts, which really isn't that bad considering the size and complexity of how he looks. Basically, it's the 2 legs, the torso, tactical debris to pose on because he's got very small contact points, the arms, the head and the upper torso, and then this little fancy thing that goes on the back of his neck there. So it's really not that complicated. It's just big and spindly and very in need of being careful when you build it. So cross my fingers I don't destroy it in the process here. So the Blissful one here is all done, and just like some of the other models we've seen from WarCry, he is quite the delicate piece here. I didn't actually glue him to the base. I figure he's good enough right now as it is. I don't know if I actually got his arms 100% on correct. They had this weird kind of like let's latch and hang on to the rest of the torso, but not actually lodge in anywhere. And I'm picking it up by those arms. That's kind of silly of me. Detail is great. There's a lot going on his back there. I just think prior to actually gluing him down, it would be a lot easier to get into those little crevices and nooks and crannies for painting. So he's just about the same size as the Shrike from the Corvus Cabal here, and in case you're wondering. So with a regular GW model on display, you can get a better idea of just what you're dealing with these guys. I don't know if I actually got his foot attached to the base correct, but it's good enough, and he seems to be pretty decently balanced. So Good enough for me. Now, moving on from here, we are going to be building the joyous one next. So here's everything we need for our joyous one. Our joyous one is going to be leaping off of this gravestone-looking bit of terrain here. He's a pretty simple construction, if it is a he, I'm not even sure. But we got the 2 arms with these crazy, ridiculous size that would make Raphael jealous, the 2 legs, the body itself. Quite a fancy mask compared to the rest of the Unmade. And then his base extender itself as he leaps forward. And he's going to be on the only 32mm base in the box too. So let's get him built. So we've got our joyous one all wrapped up here. I'm not 100% sure I've got her hand in the right position. It looks okay. And she's going to have a very precarious balance here on that base. So just be aware of that going in. And of course, she has to have all the little blingy bits everywhere flying around. But it is kind of cool. I noticed that this hand is actually completely missing. She's just attached the weapon straight to the arm. This one, she still has a hand, at least. Maybe she's wearing one of those hands. Very well could be. Not sure. Probably don't want to know either, but she is an interesting one. And it is a she, it looks like. I'm not 100% sure, but they're so into self-mutilation that I would not want to ask or question. And for as tall as she is, she's still not as big as the blissful one. So full of bliss. All right, time to move on to the awakened ones. Now, our warband comes with 4 awakened ones. The awakened ones are kind of your intermediary guys. They're a little bit better than the ascended, but they're about the same size. 3 of them, the top 3 here, which all consist of about 4 to 5 parts. They're all pretty simple construction, are all armed with what they call brutal pole arms, and they are pretty brutal looking. They're also at Malifaux levels of tomfoolery trying to get them all clipped out, so be really careful with them. And I gotta say, having poked myself with these, those spikes on their shoulders really hurt. I gave myself some nice, friendly, and fun impact damage from that. The last one right here is another awakened model, but he has a flail, obviously, and this thing was such a pain to get off without snapping it. So just be careful with these guys because they have some very spindly and sharp parts. So I'm going to get them built. Shouldn't be too much of a hassle, and then we'll see how they look, and we'll move on to the ascended ones. Here are the awakened ones, all put together. They were pretty simple for the most part. This guy gave me the most hassle just trying to get his arms aligned, and to be honest, I'm not sure if they're done 100% correctly. But I think the job is done well enough. Obviously, I need to go back and do some cleanup on these guys later on. They seem like they're going to be kind of an issue getting around in near other bases, but that's okay. This guy actually is the one who has the optional head bits. I just didn't go ahead and put them on because they were purely cosmetic, and I liked him having the extra knife. Flail Man, well, wasn't too much of an issue after building the flail first, letting it dry, and then coming back and putting them together. So, nothing too shabby there. I'm going to let these guys have quite a bit of time to dry before I start messing with them. They seem to be very delicate putting them together. It wasn't like very defined spots for the parts to go on. It was just kind of shove them and mush them and hope for the best. At least on the arms. The chests and torsos went together fine. But now it's time for the final group of models, and those are the Ascended ones. The Ascended ones are going to go on the last 3 32mm, not 32, 28mm base, the mid-sized ones, and they're actually going to get a couple of cosmetic weapon choices, but that's about it. We didn't have any big decisions to make in terms of what kinds of stuff to arm these models with compared to some of the other warbands where you had to make a definite choice and it was going to have an impact on what actually was equipped with these guys. So let's move on. Let's get those Ascended ones and we'll have the warband all done. Now we have all the parts laid out for the Ascended ones. They're a little bit more complicated than the Awakened ones. I'm not sure. I haven't actually looked at the rules for these guys yet and see how they fit in. They do all seem to be missing a limb and have all kinds of implementations that have been plugged into where their hands used to be. This guy's got a very nasty looking back scratcher, if I do say so myself. So they all consist of about 6 to 7 pieces. They have these iron halo thingies that they're all going to be wearing on their backpacks. backs, not backpacks. And this guy actually has a backpack with a hand on it, so okay. And a big honkin' meat cleaver with segmented armor. It's kind of cool. This model right here, who seems to have the most parts, actually is the only one that has any options. He has either a machete or a nasty looking cannibal, tetsubo, whatever you call those big metal clubs with spikes all over them. And he has an optional pair of shackles. I don't know why. He's the only one too. So, okay. These guys all go on 28mm bases, and then we will have assembled the entire warband, and we'll take a look at all the models then. Here are the Ascended ones all finished, and honestly, these guys are some of my favorites of the group, out of the most generic playing guys. This one especially. I love that club. I love just all the crazy details going on. These guys are some of the most hardcore looking cultists I think I have built in some time or seen, to the point that I feel kind of bad about my North Star cultists for Frostgrave, because I think they've all been replaced at this point. These guys are just going to have to take over. They're just too nuts. I mean, I think you can probably, out of all of the various warbands so far that we've seen for WarCry, I think these guys are probably the most utilitarian. I think you can get a lot of utility out of these guys in a variety of games. Use them as undead, use them as constructs, use them as, you know, some kind of necromantic cadaver type thing, use them as just crazy nasty cultists. The sky's the limit. You can, you know, some kind of weird cannibalistic bandits that practice self-mutilation. I don't know. There's a lot going on. I haven't even looked at the rules for them yet in WarCry. I'm quite curious to see how they play. At least everybody else, I kind of have a good idea, and I knew going in prior to actually building them what to expect. I have not even looked at the rules yet for the Unmade, so hopefully we'll be pleasantly surprised. Sooner or later, somebody in our family and game group is going to be either playing them or playing against them, so we'll see how they play. Biggest issue with this group, some of the pieces were a bit fiddly trying to get in. The polearm guys especially. The lack of options, that was my biggest disappointment, I think. We had one pair of shackles for the one dude. I would have loved to have seen a few more just to kind of intersperse between the rest of the group. What else? Our lack of actual choices in terms of what to build. So like with the Corvus Cabal, we had guys with the familiars, guys with various weapons that actually had a completely different card. As far as I can tell, and based on the construction of them, there's no discernible difference in what they're wielding. Obviously, they either have a hand weapon or a spear or a polearm or a flail. There's no extra different, you know, unique options there. So that was a bit of a disappointment. I guess it makes things simpler to play. You have less choices to worry about. Of all the warbands I've built so far, these guys, to me at least, just based on construction choices, not based on gameplay or anything, probably are the one where I would just say one box is enough at this point, if any. I mean, yeah, they're really cool. If you can get them cheap, and I'm hoping, because GW doesn't want to really do anything about this so far, it seems, I'm really hoping that we see a lot of third-party and bit sellers start selling off individual models, so that way you can kind of pick and choose and fine-tune your warbands, because there are a couple of models that I wouldn't mind having extras of, especially in the guys with the duplicate parts. And based on the point values, we'll have to see how everything plays out. So they're going to be interesting in that regard. So I'm eagerly looking forward to getting these painted. Hopefully I'll have them painted for you to show off soon. But in the meantime, this is High Lord Tamberlane with Obscurities and Miniatures saying see you guys later. Check out some of our other videos, and we'll be back with plenty more in the future. Bye-bye.